Part 1. The Grip That Breaks You. Why letting go might be the real power. Have you ever grabbed a handful of sand, really clutched it, only to watch it slip out from between your fingers the tighter you squeezed? Or maybe you've had those moments where you tried to plan every single detail map out, every conversation, anticipate every reaction, only to watch the whole thing unravel in a way you never could have imagined. It's frustrating, isn't it? Why does life do that? Why does it seem like the more we try to control a situation, the more it resists us? Why does holding on tight feel like the very thing that causes us to lose what we wanted to keep? Here's the truth: what we try hardest to control often ends up controlling us. Let that sink in. The person obsessed with their public image becomes a prisoner to the opinions of others. The perfectionist who needs everything just right becomes stuck in a loop of anxiety and burnout. And in our desperate attempt to create order, we end up causing chaos. But why? Why does this happen? And what are we actually supposed to do about it? That's what this video is all about. Not just some philosophical brain teaser, but something deeply relevant to how we live, how we love, how we grow, how we find peace, or don't. This isn't about surrendering to chaos. It's about something far more powerful: learning where to place your energy, what to hold on to, and more importantly, what to release. Because here's a thought that could change your entire life. The real power might not be in holding on, but in letting go. We're going to unpack this idea from every angle, emotionally, philosophically, even scientifically. From the wisdom of ancient Stoics and Taoist sages to the insights of modern psychology. So, whether you're here because you're tired of controlling everything and getting nowhere, or because you're simply curious about how this all works, you're in the right place. Let's start simple. What is control, really? At its core, control is our ability to influence or direct events in order to produce a certain result. It's not inherently good or bad, it's a tool. We use it to navigate our lives. You steer a car to get where you want. You organize your schedule to be productive. You choose what to eat for breakfast. That's all control. So far, so good. The problem begins when we start chasing control in places where it doesn't belong. Places that are slippery, unpredictable, or outright untouchable, like other people, the future, our emotions, or outcomes that depend on 100 variables we can't manipulate. So the question becomes, why do we crave control so badly? To answer that, we have to go way back thousands of years to our ancestors. Early humans didn't survive because they were relaxed and easygoing. They survived because they paid attention, planned ahead, and tried to exert control over their surroundings. They needed shelter, fire, tools, food. If they didn't prepare, they died. Simple as that. Control back then meant safety. That instinct is still with us today. When we feel in control, our brains give us a sense of security, a sense that we can predict what's coming, that we're safe. But the problem, most of life isn't a saber-toothed tiger charging at you. And so we carry this deep-rooted craving for control into areas where it's, well, kind of useless. Relationships, social status, emotions, the passage of time. You can't control those things. Not really. But you want to, because the alternative uncertainty feels terrifying. Let's break this down further. There are two types of control: healthy control and unhealthy control. Healthy control is focusing on what's actually within your grasp, your thoughts, your habits, your decisions. For example, choosing to walk away from a toxic conversation, preparing for an exam instead of panicking about the grade, deciding how to respond, not react, when you're triggered. This kind of control empowers you. It leads to growth. Now contrast that with unhealthy control. That's when you start micromanaging everything outside your sphere of influence, obsessing over how others see you, trying to force someone to love you or act a certain way, fixating on whether something will work out even when it's out of your hands. This kind of control doesn't make you feel safer. It does the opposite. It builds anxiety, erodes trust, and usually, ironically, brings on the very problems you're trying to avoid. Here's the paradox at the center of it all. The more you try to control something, the more it slips away. Why? Because control creates resistance. Push too hard, and life pushes back. Let's take a few examples. A manager who micromanages every aspect of their team's work thinks they're ensuring success, but they actually kill creativity, destroy morale, and create a toxic environment. Or someone who's obsessed with their image, they try so hard to be perfect that they become a bundle of nerves, inauthentic, anxious, and burnt out. This isn't a new idea, by the way. We've been telling stories about this forever. Remember, King Midas. He wanted to control his wealth so badly that he wished for everything he touched to turn to gold. Great idea until he hugged his daughter and turned her into a statue. Or Icarus. He wanted the thrill of flying higher than anyone else, but he ignored warnings, flew too close to the sun, and paid the ultimate price. These aren't just myths. They're cautionary tales about control gone too far. Now, if you think this all sounds like a Stoic philosophy class, well, you're not wrong. The ancient Stoics were obsessed with one concept: focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. Epictetus said it best. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Let that guide your life, and you'll feel more grounded than 90% of people out there. What's up to you? Your thoughts, your actions, your mindset. What's not? Other people's behavior, traffic, the past, the future, your health to a large extent, weather, fortune, time. Trying to control these things is not only exhausting, it's a recipe for frustration. And yet, most of us spend our lives chasing those very things. So, what do the Stoics recommend instead? Acceptance, presence, wisdom. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. You can't move the cars, you can't speed it up. That's out of your control. But you can choose how to experience it. You can stress out, yell at the wheel, honk, fume, and ruin your day. Or you can breathe, listen to something calming, reflect, maybe even be grateful for a moment of stillness. Same traffic, entirely different outcome. Taoism and Eastern philosophy takes this even deeper. They call it Wu Wei. It means effortless action or non-forcing. Not inaction, but action that aligns with the natural flow of life. Taoism says, if the river is flowing, don't fight it. Don't try to swim upstream. Flow with it. Let it carry you. Guide yourself gently with the current, not against it. There's a story of an old man who falls into a raging river. Everyone assumes he's dead, but moments later, he pops up downstream, unharmed. When they ask how he survived, he says, I didn't fight the water. I let it take me. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And maybe it's the beginning of peace. Part 2. Control versus chaos. Rewiring your mind for freedom. Now that we've set the stage with the ancient wisdom of Stoicism and Taoism, let's shift gears and explore how this paradox of control plays out inside our own heads. Not in theory, but in everyday life, in the way we think, worry, and react. There's a psychological concept that explains a lot of our behavior when it comes to control. It's called the illusion of control. And once you understand it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. The illusion of control is our brain's tendency to overestimate our ability to influence outcomes even when they're mostly or completely random. Let me give you a simple example. Studies have shown that when people are asked to roll dice for money, they'll often try to roll more carefully if the stakes are high, as if a gentler roll might bring better luck. In reality, the dice don't care. The outcome is pure chance. Or take lottery tickets. People are more confident when they get to pick their own numbers, even though the odds are exactly the same as if they were randomly assigned. It's totally irrational. But it feels better. That's what this illusion does. It soothes us, makes us feel like we're not powerless. And it doesn't stop at games. Think about how people wear lucky socks to job interviews, or avoid walking under ladders, or refresh a flight app 20 times in an hour, hoping it'll change the outcome. All of this is driven by the deep desire to feel in control, even if we aren't. Why? Because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. Deeply uncomfortable. Your brain is hardwired to prefer predictability. When you don't know what's going to happen, whether it's a date, a job interview, a text message response, your stress levels rise. Your mind goes into problem-solving mode. You start scanning for patterns, searching for signs, running mental simulations, and all of that is your way of trying to wrestle control back from the unknown. But here's where it gets tricky. Not all uncertainty is bad, and not all control is good. There's a fine line between healthy preparation and obsessive micromanagement. So where exactly does that line sit? Let's look at a few examples. 1. Micromanagement. This one's a classic. Imagine a boss who feels the need to approve everything, every email, every spreadsheet, every coffee break. At first glance, it looks like they're just being thorough. But look closer and you'll see something else: fear. Fear of failure, fear of losing relevance, fear of being seen as unnecessary. So instead of leading, they hover. Instead of empowering, they suffocate. And what happens? Their team becomes demoralized. People stop thinking creatively. Productivity drops. Resentment builds. And the boss, they're more stressed than ever. They're working harder, sleeping less, and achieving less despite clinging to every shred of control. This is the paradox in action. The more they try to control, the more it all falls apart. 2. Perfectionism. Let's talk about perfectionists. At first, it seems like a good trait, right? High standards, commitment, attention to detail. But scratch beneath the surface and you'll find something darker: anxiety. A perfectionist isn't chasing excellence. They're trying to outrun failure. For example, a student might spend 10 hours editing the same paragraph, not because they love writing, but because they're terrified of handing in something not perfect. That fear leads to procrastination. Procrastination leads to burnout. Burnout leads to missed deadlines or giving up entirely. And again, The more they try to control the outcome, the worse the outcome becomes. 3. Obsessive behavior. Now let's go even deeper into the realm of obsession. Take someone who's constantly cleaning, not because their home is dirty, but because the act of cleaning gives them a sense of peace. Scrubbing, reorganizing, vacuuming for the 5th time in a week. It's not about dust. It's about anxiety, about having one area of life they can control when everything else feels chaotic. But this control comes at a cost. Time, energy, relationships, peace of mind. It becomes a loop. Anxiety triggers control. Control becomes obsession. Obsession feeds more anxiety. It's not about a clean house anymore. It's about surviving emotionally. And it's exhausting. 4. Controlling relationships. One of the most painful places this shows up is in relationships. You might know someone who tries to control everything their partner does, what they wear, who they talk to, where they go, even what they post online. They may say it's love, they may say it's protection, but deep down, it's insecurity dressed up as control. And what does it do? It pushes the other person away. It creates tension, resentment, and eventually disconnection, which, ironically, is the exact thing the controlling partner feared most. So, what's the solution? How do we break this cycle? How do we stop clinging so tightly to things we can't control without just giving up? It starts with a shift in focus. Ask yourself this: am I putting energy into something I can actually influence? Because a lot of the time, we're not. We're trying to control how others feel, how the future unfolds, what people think of us, whether or not something will succeed. But none of those things are entirely up to us. What is up to us? How we respond, how we prepare, what we choose to believe, the effort we put in, the boundaries we set. This is where real control lives, quiet, unsexy, but powerful. One technique that helps with this shift: mindfulness. And no, you don't have to sit cross-legged on a mountaintop to practice it. Mindfulness just means being present, noticing what's happening right now without judgment. When you're mindful, you become aware of your thought patterns. You notice when you're spiraling. You see the moment you start clenching for control, and you choose to pause. Let's say you're waiting to hear back from a job interview. Instead of refreshing your inbox every 10 minutes and imagining worst-case scenarios, you take a breath. You say, "I've done what I can. Now I wait." That one sentence can save you hours of unnecessary suffering. Another powerful tool: self-compassion. Because, let's be honest, a lot of our control issues stem from how harsh we are with ourselves. We tell ourselves, "I can't mess this up. I have to fix this. If I don't handle everything, I'm failing." But imagine if you talk to yourself like you talk to your best friend. What would you say? Probably something more like, "You've done your part. It's okay to rest. You're not supposed to control everything." That kind voice, that's what helped you let go. And letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging, you stop fighting, and you start living. Part 3. Letting go without giving up. Ancient wisdom for modern chaos. So far, we've explored how control works psychologically, how it feels, how it backfires, and how our need for certainty often makes us suffer more than the uncertainty itself. But now, let's turn to some ancient and surprisingly practical wisdom that's been guiding people for centuries. Because the struggle between control and surrender isn't just a modern problem, it's a human problem. And philosophers, especially the Stoics and Taoists, have been offering solutions for millennia. Let's start with a reminder from Stoicism. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Epictetus. That might sound like common sense, but let's break it down. According to the Stoics, the things that are up to us include our thoughts, our decisions, our actions, our reactions, our character. In other words, your inner world is your domain. The things that aren't up to us, what others think, what others do, the outcome of your efforts, the weather, your genetics, whether someone loves you back. Trying to control those things, they said, is the cause of most human suffering. Take this example. You're preparing for a big presentation. You do your research practice, your slides, rehearse your speech. That's within your control. But how your audience reacts, that's not. If you measure your success by their reaction, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, because now your peace depends on something you don't actually own. The Stoic solution. Do your best, own your part, then let the rest go. They called this the dichotomy of control, and it's one of the most powerful mindset tools you'll ever come across. Now let's look at how Taoism approaches the same idea, but with a very different flavor. Taoism isn't about willpower or mental discipline, it's about flow, alignment, moving with the current instead of against it. They call it Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action or non-forcing. But don't mistake it for passivity. Wu Wei doesn't mean do nothing. It means act when the time is right, how the moment calls for it, without force, without struggle. Here's an image that Taoists often use: water. Water is soft, gentle, but it carves canyons. It flows around obstacles. It nourishes life. You never see water trying to control things. It adapts, it moves, and because of that, it wins. So, what does that mean for you? Imagine you're facing a difficult situation at work. Maybe your boss is unfair. Maybe a coworker keeps undercutting you. Your first instinct might be to push harder, fight back, prove your worth, force respect. But sometimes Taoism would say pause, flow with it. Maybe the answer isn't to control the dynamic, but to adjust your energy, redirect your focus, respond instead of react. You might choose to lead by quiet consistency instead of confrontation. You might let the situation reveal itself before taking bold action. In other words, you don't disappear. You respond strategically, not desperately. Here's a Taoist story that captures this beautifully. An old man falls into a rushing river and disappears beneath the rapids. Everyone assumes he's dead, but moments later, he emerges calm and unharmed downstream. When asked how he survived, he replies, "I didn't resist the water. I let it carry me." That's the Taoist art of letting go. And ironically, that's what saved him. Let's translate that into modern life. You're in a relationship. Things aren't going well. You sense distance. Your partner is pulling away. Panic sets in, and with it, the urge to control. You want to call more, text more, ask where they're going, try to fix it. But often that control pushes them further. What if, instead of clinging, you paused? You asked yourself, what's actually in my control here? I can express how I feel without trying to manipulate. I can give space if needed. I can observe instead of interrogate. I can choose how I show up grounded, not desperate. And then I let go. Not because I don't care, but because I care enough to not choke the connection. That's real strength. And it's a lesson both the Stoics and Taoists would agree on. Letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing peace over obsession. Practical tools for letting go. Let's bring this from philosophy into daily life. Because this isn't just about feeling inspired, it's about being equipped. Here are 3 practical methods to help you actually practice letting go. 1. The control column exercise. This is simple but powerful. Grab a notebook and draw 2 columns. Label 1, what I can control. Label the other, what I can't control. Now take a situation you're struggling with, maybe a job, relationship, health issue, and start listing. Here's how it might look. What I can control. My response to stress, how much effort I put into recovery, the questions I ask my doctor, my sleep, hydration, and mindset. What I can't control. The diagnosis, how long recovery takes, other people's reactions, the outcome of the treatment. When you do this, you give yourself clarity. You stop spinning. You focus your energy where it actually matters. And that brings peace. 2. The reframe, the narrative technique. Sometimes we try to control because we've told ourselves a story about what failure or uncertainty means. I have to get this promotion. If I don't, I'm a loser. If my relationship ends, it means I'm unlovable. If they reject my idea, it proves I'm not smart. Pause. Catch those thoughts. Then ask, is that true or just a story? I'm telling myself, what if the promotion isn't the only path to success? What if a breakup is painful, but also a chance for growth? What if being rejected doesn't mean you're not smart, but simply that your idea wasn't right for them? Reframing lets you rewrite the story from one of desperation and control to one of growth and clarity. 3. Mindfulness in the moment. Let's say you're stuck in an argument. You feel the heat rising. You want to win, to be right, to control the narrative. Instead of reacting, take 1 breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the tightness in your jaw. And say to yourself, I can't control what they say, but I can choose how I respond. Mindfulness isn't magic, but it is powerful. It breaks the autopilot. It gives you 1 second of choice. And sometimes that's all you need. Letting go isn't a switch you flip. It's a practice, a mindset, a new relationship with control, one that takes time to build. And here's the surprising thing. When you stop trying to control everything, you gain something unexpected. Space to breathe. Energy to create. Emotional clarity. Peace in the moment. Because you're no longer wrestling with the wind. You're flowing with it. 3. We create the very pain we're trying to avoid. This is the core of the paradox. The person who tries to control their partner's life because they're afraid of abandonment, they often push their partner away. The parent who over-controls their child to keep them safe, they often raise kids who rebel, withdraw, or feel anxious. The leader who tightens the reins to ensure perfection, they create a team that resents them and stops innovating. When you grip too tight, things snap. Control becomes the source of destruction, not protection. So, what's the alternative? Not giving up, not doing nothing, but learning to trust the process. That's a phrase we throw around a lot, trust the process. But what does it actually mean? Trusting the process. Committing to the input, not the outcome. It means doing your best and understanding that's enough. It means focusing on effort instead of guarantees. It means letting go of the need to predict or manage every twist and turn. Here's a practical example. Say you're launching a YouTube channel. You spend weeks scripting, editing, branding. You hit publish and crickets. No views, no subscribers, just silence. You could panic, obsess, refresh stats every 30 minutes, or you could focus on your process. Ask, did I give my best effort? What can I learn from this? What's in my control for the next video? What's not? You show up again. You improve again. You release the outcome. That's trusting the process. And ironically, it's those people who eventually win. Because they're not tied to every rise and fall. They're building momentum, not chasing validation. The freedom of letting go. Now, let's get real. Letting go isn't easy. It feels like stepping off a cliff. It feels like losing control. It feels like weakness. But here's the truth. Letting go is strength. It takes guts to say, I've done my part. Now, I choose peace over panic. Now, I trust my next step, even if I can't see the outcome. It's not giving up. It's growing up. It's realizing that life isn't a machine you control. It's a rhythm you learn to move with. And the more you dance with it instead of fighting it, the more grace you find. Daily practices that build that strength. Let's talk habits, because mental shifts are powerful, but habits make them stick. Here are 3 simple but life-changing practices to help you build the muscle of letting go. 1. Morning focus. Question. Each morning, ask yourself, what's one thing I can control today and one thing I'm releasing? For example, control my attitude at work. Release my coworker's opinion of me. This sets your mindset for the day. You start with clarity instead of chaos. 2. The pause and breathe rule. Whenever you feel that spike of stress, the urge to fix, to text, to check, to argue, pause. Take one slow breath. Ask, is this something I can actually control right now? If not, step back. If yes, choose a response instead of a reaction. You'll be amazed at how often that one pause rewires the whole moment. 3. The evening let go ritual. At the end of the day, take 3 to 5 minutes to reflect. What did I try to control today? That wasn't mine. What can I let go of before I sleep? You can journal it, meditate on it, or simply sit in stillness. The point is to release, to unclench your emotional fists before bed. Because the more you carry into your dreams, the heavier tomorrow becomes. Letting go is not something you do once. It's a practice, a daily decision, a way of living that says, I will give my best. I will hold myself to a standard of grace, not perfection. And I will trust that what's meant for me won't need to be controlled to stay. Coming up next, in Part 5, we'll explore how letting go isn't just good for your peace of mind. It actually makes you more effective, more creative, and more emotionally resilient. We'll also dive into how leaders, entrepreneurs, parents, and creatives thrive not because they micromanage life, but because they know how to work with uncertainty instead of against it. Part 5. letting go makes you stronger. Why surrender is a superpower. By now, we've looked at letting go as a mindset shift. But here's what might surprise you most. Letting go doesn't just make you calmer, it actually makes you more effective. Yes, letting go boosts mental clarity. Yes, it brings peace. But beyond that, it enhances creativity. It improves decision-making. It deepens your relationships. It makes you more powerful, not less. Let's unpack that. 1. Letting go improves focus and decision-making. When you're obsessing over everything, your future, your image, how someone else feels, it clutters your mind. That mental noise slows down your ability to think clearly. You've probably experienced this before. You're preparing for an important meeting. You overthink every detail, rehearse every sentence. But the more you try to perfect it, the more foggy your mind becomes. You're writing something, an email, a script, a message, and instead of flowing, you're stuck looping in your head about how it might be received. That's what trying to control the outcome does. It hijacks your focus from the process. But the moment you let go of how it's supposed to go, your mind opens. You return to clarity. You write more freely. You speak more naturally. You decide more confidently. Letting go reduces cognitive load. It filters out the distractions and gives you space to choose wisely. That's not weakness, that's intelligence. 2. Letting go boosts creativity. Creativity doesn't thrive in control. It thrives in play, in experimentation, in trust. The best ideas don't come when you're forcing them. They come when you're curious, present, open to possibility. Great musicians, they improvise. Great writers, they follow flow, not formulas. Great inventors, they fail forward. When you grip too tightly to how it should be, you block the flow of what it could be. Letting go says, I'll explore, not control. I'll create, not micromanage. I'll allow the unknown to be part of the magic. And that's where genius lives. 3. Letting go strengthens relationships. This one is big. Most relationship tension comes from trying to control what's not yours. Their feelings, their reactions, their choices, their timeline. You love someone. You want the best for them. That's natural. But love turns into control when you think your way is the only right way. And control always backfires. It makes the other person feel small, watched, suffocated. Eventually, they either fight back or fade away. But letting go says, I trust you to be you. I'm here to support, not to steer. I love you enough to let you breathe. This isn't just romantic. It applies to friendships, parenting, business partnerships, everything. People blossom when they feel free. Letting go builds trust. Trust builds safety. And safety builds deeper connection than control ever could. 4. Letting go builds emotional resilience. Here's something counterintuitive. The more you let go of control, the more control you gain over your emotions. Think of it like this. If your mood is constantly tied to outside results, likes, comments, income, someone texting you back, you're on an emotional roller coaster every day. But when you detach your mood from external validation and anchor it in your own alignment, you stop spiraling when things don't go your way. You stop taking everything personally. You stop living on edge. You become grounded, steady, confident, not because the world is predictable, but because you are. You're no longer reacting to life. You're responding to it. That's emotional maturity. That's inner power. 5. Letting go doesn't mean settling, it means strategy. Some people think if I let go, I'll become passive. I'll stop striving. But letting go is not the same as giving up. It doesn't mean you stop working hard. It doesn't mean you stop pursuing goals. It means you stop attaching your worth to results you can't control. You keep showing up. You keep improving. You keep growing. But your peace doesn't hang in the balance anymore. That frees you to take bold action without fear. And when you act without fear, you become dangerous in the best way. Think about elite athletes, the best performers, the best negotiators. They're not the most controlling people. They're the most composed under pressure. They've trained themselves to let go of the noise and stay in the zone. And because of that, they win. Letting go is not laziness, it's mastery. Let's talk examples. Let's bring this home with some real-world examples of how letting go works in different roles. The entrepreneur, control mindset. I need to guarantee success. Every piece of my brand must be flawless. I can't afford mistakes. What happens? Burnout, paralysis, fear of launching. Letting go mindset. I'll give my best. I'll stay consistent, and I'll adjust based on feedback. What happens? Faster action, more authenticity, better learning curve. The parent, control mindset. I have to shape my child's entire future. I can't let them mess up. What happens? The child feels micromanaged or scared to make decisions. Letting go mindset. I'll guide, love, and support. But they have to walk their own path. What happens? The child develops confidence, autonomy, and trust. The creator, control mindset. Every video must be perfect. If it flops, I'm failing. What happens? Over-editing, procrastination, mental burnout. Letting go mindset. I'll make meaningful work. I'll stay consistent. I'll learn and evolve. What happens? More output, more connection, more peace. Letting go is what frees you to actually do the thing you came here to do, whether that's to love, lead, teach, build, or grow. You don't need to control everything to succeed. You need to trust yourself, trust your process, and move forward despite uncertainty. 3 words that will change your relationship with control. Ready? These are the words you can come back to every single time control creeps in. I release this. Say it out loud. Seriously, try it. I release this. Say it when you're obsessing over someone ghosting you. You're panicking over low views. You're stuck in a loop of overthinking. Pause, breathe, say it again. I release this, not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. What's coming next? In Part 6, we're going even deeper. We'll explore how control sneaks into your identity, how it warps the stories you tell yourself about who you are, your past, and your future. We'll look at how to rewrite your internal narrative so that freedom, not fear, drives your decisions. This is where letting go becomes liberation. You ready? ChatGPT Jonoy. Part 6. Rewriting the story. Letting go of who you think you have to be. We've talked about control in terms of action, in terms of external behavior, but now it's time to go to the deepest level of all identity. Because sometimes the thing we're trying hardest to control is who we are. And it happens subtly. You don't even realize it's happening. You take a job you hate because you don't want to be the one who failed. You stay in a relationship that's dying because you don't want to be the one who couldn't make it work. You push yourself to exhaustion because you've always been the responsible one and don't know how to let go of that label. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When you try to control the story of who you think you need to be, you bury who you actually are. Let's go deeper. 1. Control often shows up as a story about yourself. We all carry stories. They sound like, I'm the smart one. I'm the strong one, so I can't fall apart. I'm the one who has to fix everything. I'm not creative. I'm the one people rely on. I don't do failure. At some point, these stories might have helped you survive. They gave you a sense of purpose or belonging. They protected you. But as you grow, they can become cages. The need to control that story keeps you from evolving. And sometimes the most powerful act of letting go is saying, I no longer need to live in that version of myself. 2. Your identity is not a contract. We tend to treat identity like it's permanent. Like once you say, I'm this kind of person, you're stuck. You signed a lifelong contract, and now you're obligated to perform that identity forever. But you didn't sign anything. You can evolve. You can pivot. You can release roles that no longer serve you. You're not a job title. You're not your GPA. You're not your follower count. You're not someone's opinion. You're not your last relationship. You are a human being, and you get to update your story. Control tells you, keep proving yourself. Letting go says, you already are enough. 3. The shadow of control, shame and fear. Underneath all that identity-based control is a more primal emotion, shame. Shame says, if I don't succeed, I'm unworthy. If I'm not perfect, I don't deserve love. If I admit I'm struggling, people will leave. And so we control. We control how much we share. We control how we're perceived. We control who sees our mess. But here's the paradox. The more you try to hide your imperfections, the more disconnected you feel. And connection is what heals shame. Letting go of control doesn't mean airing all your pain to the world. It means slowly, courageously, making peace with the truth that you don't have to be flawless to be enough. And when you do that, your relationships deepen, your self-respect grows, and shame loses its grip. 4. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be seen. One of the biggest control traps in the self-help world is the idea that you always need to be working on yourself, always fixing, always optimizing. But growth isn't about fixing yourself, it's about revealing yourself. Letting go means trusting that who you are under all the fear and pretending and over-efforting is already worthy. You don't need a 6-figure business to be valuable. You don't need a ripped body to deserve confidence. You don't need to be emotionally bulletproof to deserve love. Control says, be better or else. Letting go says, you're allowed to be human, and you're allowed to grow at your own pace. That doesn't mean you stop improving. It means you improve from love, not from fear. And that changes everything. Letting go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. Let's talk transformation. A lot of people never change, not because they can't, but because they're still trying to control who they used to be. They're holding onto a version of themselves that once served a purpose. the overachiever, the quiet one, the people pleaser, the lone wolf, the fixer. They don't want to disappoint people. They don't want to lose their place in the tribe. They don't want to risk not being understood. But growth often looks like confusing the people who thought they knew you. And letting go often feels like grieving an old identity before stepping into a new one. It's okay. It's okay to be someone different than you were last year. It's okay to stop playing roles that were never really yours. It's okay to release the need to be anything and just be. Letting go is not just an emotional choice. It's a spiritual evolution. It's peeling away everything that's not true so that what's real can finally breathe. Practice the identity release letter. Here's a simple exercise that can change your life. Write a letter just for yourself. Title it, Things I'm No Longer Carrying. And in it, list every identity role or expectation you're done performing for others. Here's what it might sound like. I'm no longer carrying the pressure to be the strong one. I'm no longer pretending I don't need help. I'm no longer trying to prove my worth through achievement. I'm no longer acting like I have it all together. I'm no longer afraid of being misunderstood. Then close it with, I am enough. I am allowed to change. I trust who I'm becoming. Read it every morning for a week and notice what shifts in how you show up. Letting go is a return, not a loss. This is the final truth for this section. Letting go doesn't take something from you. It returns something to you. It gives you your energy back, your time back, your freedom back, your creativity back, your presence back. It helps you step out of survival mode and into something softer, slower, and more true. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to be anything other than fully present in your own life. And the moment you stop trying to control who you should be, you meet the person you were always meant to become. Coming up next, in the final section, Part 7, we'll wrap this journey by answering the big question. What does it look like to live a life built on surrender, not struggle? We'll explore real grounded ways to keep this mindset alive, even in a world that constantly pressures you to take control. You've come this far. Let's finish strong. Chat GPE Janoi. Part 7. Living the Surrendered Life. How to let go and still lead with power. You've made it to the final part. We've peeled back the layers of control, where it comes from, how it traps us, and why letting go is more than just a mindset. It's a way of being. Now comes the question that matters most. What does it look like to actually live this way? What does it mean to walk through life not as a person who needs to control everything, but as someone who trusts deeply, acts intentionally, and lives powerfully without force? Because, make no mistake, this isn't about giving up. This is about showing up with clarity, peace, and presence. So, let's paint the picture. 1. The surrendered life starts with a different kind of strength. Not the strength to conquer, but the strength to let go. Not the strength to dominate, but the strength to stay soft. In a hard moment, you've seen it before. The leader who holds boundaries without yelling. The parent who says, I trust you, and means it. The artist who creates for joy, not validation. The friend who listens without trying to fix. The person who can say, I don't know, without shame. That's surrender in motion. It's a kind of strength that's grounded, rooted, not defensive, not afraid, not desperate. 2. Surrender doesn't mean inaction. It means intentional action. Here's what people often misunderstand. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you still prepare. You still plan. You still dream big. But you don't hinge your self-worth or peace of mind on things you can't control. You shift your goal from outcome to alignment. Instead of, how can I guarantee success? You ask, what's the most honest aligned step I can take right now? This shift changes your relationship with effort. You still work hard, but from a place of joy and purpose, not fear and scarcity. You still take risks, but with a calm mind, not a frantic heart. That's real power. 3. Surrender is daily. This isn't a one-time choice. You don't just let go once and suddenly live in perfect flow forever. No, you'll have to remind yourself again and again when you don't get the call back, when someone misunderstands you, when the numbers don't reflect your effort, when life throws something unfair your way. You'll feel the urge to grip, to fix, to panic, to chase. And in those moments, you get to choose again. I can't control this, but I can control how I show up. I choose peace, I choose trust, I choose aligned action, not forced outcomes. This is the muscle you're building, and it gets stronger each time you use it. 4. Signs. You're living the surrendered life. You'll know you're living this way when you start to feel lighter. You stop carrying the weight of things you can't change. Freer. You no longer obsess over how you're perceived. More creative. Ideas flow when control loosens. More peaceful. There's less drama, fewer spirals. More authentic. You show up as you, not a role or performance. More connected. Your relationships deepen because they're based on presence, not control. You'll also notice more serendipity. Why? Because when you stop trying to force the timing, the right people and opportunities flow to you. You start catching things you used to chase. You stop blocking what was already on its way. 5. A surrendered life is still a brave life. Make no mistake, surrender takes courage. It means showing up without guarantees. It means releasing the illusion that control equals safety. It means staying open when it would be easier to close. But you are capable of that kind of courage. You already have been every time you faced the unknown and kept going anyway. This is just the next evolution. Instead of fear driving you to control, let trust guide you to alignment. Instead of chasing a future out of anxiety, let presence build your path. Instead of being reactive, choose to be intentional, steady, and free. Daily mantras for the surrendered life. Use these anytime you feel yourself slipping back into control mode. I release the outcome. I trust the process. What's mine will stay. What's not will go. I choose peace over panic. Let it flow. Let it be. Let it come. Not mine to carry. Not mine to fix. Not mine to control. I trust myself to respond with grace. Repeat them in the car, before a big meeting, after a hard conversation, while you journal, or when you just feel like the world's spinning too fast. Words have power, and these words bring you back to center. Final thought: the gift of letting go. Here's the truth. No one tells you. When you finally let go, you start to enjoy your life. You stop rushing through it like it's a checklist. You laugh more. You breathe deeper. You trust that whatever happens, you'll be okay. And maybe for the first time you realize you don't need to control everything to feel safe. You don't need to force things to be worthy. You don't need to hold it all together to be loved. You just need to show up honestly, take the next aligned step, and trust that the rest will unfold even if it's not on your timeline. Because it always does. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but exactly as it should. And that's the real secret. Thank you for being here. You've just completed a full journey into one of the most powerful mindset shifts in existence, the paradox of control. Now, go live it. Loosen your grip. Trust the current and let life meet you where you are.